In a certain small town, there lived a little Titan SPEAKERMAN named Peter. He lived in a small house with his grandmother and his father, who was rarely home. Peter's father was already an adult and an experienced fighter. Every day he went on new missions in order to exterminate the race of skibidi toilets. One day his father promised Peter that sooner or later the agents would defeat the toilets and life in their universe would improve. Peter wished that this war would end as soon as possible, because when it did, his father would always be by his side. Peter's mom died not too long ago. One day she was sent to the epicenter of the war. It was here that Peter's mother died heroically, so the decision was made to send Peter to live with his grandmother. One day Peter's father managed to come home for a couple of days. He loved his son very much, and every time he wanted to come home at least for a couple of hours. Then the father sat with his son for about 2 hours, and suddenly there was a loud explosion somewhere near their house. Peter's grandmother ran into the room and picked him up to carry him to the safety of the house. Peter started crying and he was very scared. Peter's father immediately got up and headed out of the house. Peter watched his father leave the house once again and yelled to him, "Daddy, come back." Of course, it was hard for Peter's father to leave under his son's shout, but there was no way out. When his father went outside, he noticed that their small town was being attacked by a mob of toilets. A fight was inevitable. The toughest agents of that town went to do battle with these villains. About 20 minutes of bloody battle passed and everything suddenly went quiet. All the residents came out into the street, including Grandma and Peter. In the center of the street stood all the heroes of that town who had started to fight for their town. Everyone began to applaud them and express their gratitude. Then somewhere in the distance some lights began to be seen. Peter's father looked at them and realized that it was the toilet crowd, which was 10 times bigger than the previous one. Peter's father then started yelling to all the citizens to start running out of town. Everyone was shocked and started to flee, except for Peter's father and the other heroes of the town. They stayed behind to give the toilets a fight. Peter's grandmother, holding him in her arms, started running out of the settlement to save her grandson. Peter looked at his father with tears in his eyes, and his father looked back at Peter. Many years had passed. Peter had grown up and remembered his father and mother every day. He lived together with his grandmother. His grandmother was already old and Peter helped her. He fed his grandmother and helped with household chores, and during the day he would leave for his toilet war training. Peter was very proud of his parents and decided to follow in their footsteps. After a few more years, Peter's grandmother died. Now Peter was left all alone. He had no one more relatives than his parents and grandmother. But Peter did not give up. He did not fall into despair, but went to war against the evil toilets. Such a strong and sad feeling left Peter. Now Peter has become stronger, and he will never forget his parents.